Welcome to Keith Knight Don't Tread on Anyone and the Libertarian Institute. Here are a few things to keep in mind while many people mourn the death of Donald Rumsfeld. CBS News, September 4th, 2002, by Joel Roberts. Plans for Iraq attack began on 9/11. CBS News has learned that barely 5 hours after American Airlines Flight 77 plowed into the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Donald H. Rumsfeld was telling his aides to come up with plans for striking Iraq, even though there was no evidence linking Saddam to the attacks. That's according to notes taken by aides who were with Rumsfeld in the National Military Command Center on September 11th, notes that showed exactly where the road toward war with Iraq began, reports CBS News National Security Correspondent David Martin. So look at how the welfare recipients of the military-industrial complex respond to Americans getting attacked. They don't say, "Oh my God, our job is to keep America safe, and if we don't do that, we get fired, and then we won't get any more funding. We're totally screwed." They automatically know that it's going to lead to them getting more money and more power, and the decision to do things, the ability to do things they otherwise wouldn't have the recognized right to do if it weren't for the fog of war. So even if you get the best people in there, they're going to get totally corrupted because they have no incentive. They don't have the profit, loss, and the freedom to disassociate with bad actors, as you would in the private or the voluntary sector. With the intelligence all pointing toward bin Laden, Rumsfeld ordered the military to begin working on strike plans, and at 2:40 p.m., the notes quote Rumsfeld as saying he wanted best info fast, judge whether good enough to hit SH, meaning Saddam Hussein. At the same time, not only UBL, the initials used to identify Osama bin Laden. This is a well-understood tactic. Rahm Emanuel said it best when he said, "Never let a crisis go to waste." Now, nearly 1 year later, there is still very little evidence Iraq was involved in the September 11th attacks. But if these notes are accurate, that didn't matter to Rumsfeld. The man starts a war based on a lie. I mean, how is anyone mourning the death of this evil psychopath? Rumsfeld says, "Go massive," the notes quote him as saying. "Sweep it all up, things related and not." So again, this is the head of these intelligence agencies and their cronies. The intelligence community has nothing to do with keeping you safe, keeping you informed, making sure the populace knows what's going on. It's some people wanting to violently dominate others. Here is a section of Osama bin Laden's own words in a pamphlet that he gave to Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan titled Tactical Recommendations. It can be found in Al-Qaeda in its own words, published by Harvard University. "Then the fighters realized that the gang in the White House could not see things clearly, and that their leader, that idiot they obey, was claiming that we envied their lifestyle, when the truth, which this pharaoh would like to hide, is that we are attacking them because of their injustice toward the Muslim world, and especially Palestine and Iraq, as well as their occupation of the land of the two sanctuaries. When the fighters saw this, they decided to come out of the shadows and take the fight into their territory, into their homes." So they have a number of lies. They hate us for our freedom. They did 9/11. These are all fake justifications. Here is Donald Rumsfeld, March 23rd, 2004, discussing the Afghan strategy to Congress. "The essence of this strategy was contained in NSPD 9. It was the first major substantive national security decision directive issued by this administration. It was presented for decision by principals on September 4th, 2001, 7 days before September 11th. The directive was signed by the president with minor changes and a preamble to reflect the events of September 11th on October 25th, 2001. So the idea that attacks happen, then the government looks into them, and then decide who was responsible, and then decide to get the guilty people, that is completely backwards. They have a plan, and then look for a justification. Now you can say, well, they were just trying to get Al-Qaeda before Al-Qaeda could get us, so it actually makes the case that government should have more power. Well, in 2004, Iraq was basically taken over by Al-Qaeda, a guy named Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. After the U.S. invaded, wrote a letter to Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri, the two heads of al-Qaeda at the time, more or less pledging his allegiance. Again, al-Qaeda came into power in Iraq in 2004 as a causal result of the power vacuum created by the invasion of Iraq. Also, the excuse that, well, they're just going after al-Qaeda and our government is anti-al-Qaeda. There's no evidence to support this at all. Here we have Jake Sullivan in an email to Hillary Clinton on, what is this, February 12th, 2012, it looks like. Unclassified U.S. State Case, number F 2014, whatever, release in full. Jake Sullivan says, see last item, AQ is on our side in Syria. Otherwise, things have basically turned out as expected. This was not some rogue guy in the State Department. That was in 2012, it's now 2021, and he's working as a foreign policy advisor to the Biden administration. Knowing that al-Qaeda is fighting on the side of the U.S. in Syria against the Assad regime. So again, you can't say, well, our government was just trying to protect us from al-Qaeda, because they also sided with al-Qaeda against Gaddafi, a group named LIFG, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, in Libya. They also sided with al-Qaeda in Sudan. They sided with al-Qaeda in Yemen against the Houthi government. So, how happy should we be that someone like Rumsfeld has died? Well, George Bush Sr. and David Rockefeller also died, along with Zbigniew Brzezinski. Not huge increases in the amount of freedom. Here's why. Here is Hans Hermann Hoppe in A Theory of Socialism and Capitalism. The state cannot be fought simply by boycotting it, as a private business could, because an aggressor does not respect the negative judgment revealed by boycotts. But it also cannot simply be fought by countering its aggression with defensive violence, because the state's aggression is supported by public opinion. Thus, everything depends on a change in public opinion. In order for the state to fail in reaching its objective, no more and no less than a change in general public opinion must take place. State-supportive action must come to be regarded and branded as immoral, because it is support given to an organization of institutionalized crime. So I'm not exactly doing a victory dance that Rumsfeld is gone, and Cheney's gonna die soon, and Bush Jr. is also gonna die. Nothing to celebrate at all. I mean, John McCain's a perfect example. Here is Michael Malice using this understanding with regard to gun confiscation that the police enforced during Hurricane Katrina. Malice says, every gun confiscation bill is just a letter to Santa without men and women in badges to impose them. Every cop knowingly and willingly enforces unlawful, unconstitutional restrictions on freedom. Every cop is a criminal. Again, the problem is in the minds of the masses. The problem is not in Washington, D.C. Here is a clip from James Corbett citing George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Donald Rumsfeld, all explicitly lying the U.S. into war with Iraq.
We all remember the lies that led the U.S. into the Iraq War.
I don't think we ever said, at least I know I didn't say, that there was a direct connection between September the 11th and Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein aids and protects terrorists, including members of al-Qaeda.
You have said in the past that it was, quote, pretty well confirmed.
No, I never said that.
Okay. I
never
think
said
that is...
No, it's absolutely not. What I said was, it's been pretty well confirmed that he did go to Prague and he did meet with a senior official of the Iraqi intelligence service.
It appears that there were not weapons of mass destruction there.
You said you knew where they were.
I did not.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat.